Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Please click on the like button for this video. This is the first time I think anybody in Indian American and Indian diaspora and as well as in India is going to come to know about some startling facts that are coming out. A lot of stuff to discuss for me and Sumit, and this is going to be more of a conversational style where we are both going to share our thoughts. So please do click on the like button and let's welcome our guest of the evening, Sumit Peer. Sumit ji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Shri sir, namaskar, pranam, vanakkam and sadhu ato. Thank you very much for the invitation. Always a pleasure, sir.
Thank you so much, Sumit ji. So I'm just going to walk back to 2022 February so that our viewers get an idea of what is exactly going on. So there are lots of moving pieces. That's all I can tell you, viewers. But let me just go back to February 2022. Russia thought that it would be a cakewalk for it to go into Ukraine because on the eastern side of Ukraine, most of the people are Russian speaking. They thought they'll be welcomed with open arms and so on and so forth. So they sent a light brigade of 90,000 people with not much equipment. They did not want to harm the population of Ukraine because in their mind, in Putin's mind, he wanted to make them another state for them. In fact, if you remember the Donbas region, the two governors were called to Moscow. There was a press conference where they both said that, yes, we are throwing our lot with Russia. So it was as if, now these have become part of Russia. So they thought that they'll come into Donbas region and then from there on, they'll occupy the rest of Ukraine. But what happened was something else. Ukraine fought back fiercely, but the longer the war lasted, the worse it became for Ukraine because in 1999, Ukraine population was 51 million. Today, people say 32 million or thereabouts. They're not even sure. And after the war began in February 2022, that's about 15 months ago, close to 12 million Ukrainians have left Ukraine. And they are saying that they'll never come back. There are bus loads and train loads of Ukrainians going all the way up to the edge of Western Europe. And 10 million is believed to have gone to Europe and 2 million have gone to Russia. So what is happening? Russia is still having about 500,000 of its troops along Ukraine, and Ukraine is running out of army. They really don't have anyone left. And you have to remember one thing about Ukraine. The river, the Dnipro, kind of breaks this country into two parts. To the right of it is, say, Russian Orthodox Church. To the left of is Catholic, most of them from Poland and previous countries and geographical mappings that took place over First World War and Second World War. So now Ukraine is beginning to scrape the bottom of the barrel. They are not able to get able-bodied men to fight their war. So that is one side. So now what is happening is US has pumped in billions of dollars into Ukraine, thinking that they'll somehow defeat Russia here. What Russia has done is they said, okay, fine, we'll just wait it out. And they have been waiting it out. They're also adding another 300 to 400,000 people in its troops, I'm hearing. So they'll have about 1 million left after 500 deployed in Ukraine. So this is where things stand there. So what US found out was how is Russia able to withstand all these sanctions from the West? In fact, the ruble has been going up in value. So what is going on? US said, let's try and see what is happening. And they found that China was exporting anything that Russia wanted. Jo bhi pucha de diya. So now, a week before Modi went to United States, Secretary Blinken paid a visit to China. Now, this is where my analysis comes in. I've been hearing a lot of channels. What might have happened is Blinken may have said, look, China, you have to stop exports to Russia. And in exchange, we will excuse you for COVID-19. They must have shown some proof that COVID-19, escaped out of Wuhan. They would have shown some proof and said, look, we are going to let go of this, but you will stop exports to Russia. Now, what is not probably said or that he said we will follow up is you can again start exporting to US. This is where the complication comes in because next week, the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, is going to China. That means somewhere they are going to have an economic agreement. Where does India stand in all these things? What is going to happen? And there are many other stories, but I want to stop here. Sumitji, your opening comments, please.
Sure. Thank you, Sri. Thank you very much. And let's do this, Sri Ganesha. I think we all have been talking and we have been very vocal about one thing, that the biggest facade in this today's time is Chinese economy. Chinese economy is fragile. Chinese economy is crumbling under on its weight. We at PGurus have been talking to you about the mounting Chinese debt with the cumulative debt of $53 trillion. We have been talking to you about how provinces are highly indebted. We have been talking about how the factories, workshops, and the people are getting unemployed in China, how they have seen the highest unemployment in their existence, and how their food stocks have run down. There was a time around a year back, they kind of got 64% of the total food grain available in the world markets and stored in China. But eventually the food grain started falling down. And there are a lot of people like India who stopped exporting food grain to China. Like we don't export them rice any longer, which was used for making noodles. It was used for making a lot of stews and soups, which is a part of the Chinese, main course. And even for the animal feed, rice was used all along. So India stopped that rice. So with all these things coming in and the wheat supplies across the world getting lower. Now, if you look at the China, traditionally China has been a country wherein as long as you have the food supplies, wherein you are able to maintain the food supplies, your things are going right. But when the food supplies start kind of falling, the things go crazy in China, and that is exactly what has happened. And you see, whenever there has been a revolution in China, the click or the tipping point has to be how much food supplies does the communist China hold. That was the reason China was holding the food. If you have the food, you can control the people. But with economy now breaking, falling apart, and when we talk of the Chinese real estate, which is 33% of the Chinese GDP, now it is but natural if you have a sector which is 33% of the GDP which conks off, your economy is 1/3 wiped out. Even if I look at $18 trillion of GDP, so logically, round of back of envelope mathematics, I'm talking about 6 to 8 trillion has evaporated. Your exports are falling, your shipping lines are not performing, you don't have power, you have drought, you have a host of problems, and you have around 1.4 billion people to feed. Now, who is your biggest trading partner? Your biggest trading partner is United States of America. What does United States of America give you? It gives you a gift. I want to say gift of $600 billion as trade deficit.
Every year.
$600 billion, approximately more than $500 billion. And if I do here and there, and if I add the deficit with the European Union, add another $200 billion. So Europe and America put together are giving approximately $1 trillion. Not only that, when you look at the African side, your exports have started going down. When you look at South America, Middle East, all your exports are going down. So if I look at the impact is phenomenal. And the cherry on the cake is, sir, that when you look at the local provinces, they have created those special purpose vehicles which they are using to borrow money. The borrowing is above the ceiling. The borrowing is much more than what G can handle. And I've been always saying and predicting this is that China is going to crumble under its own weight. It's 2030. By that, in my opinion, China will break up. Now, how to prevent this breakup? If China wants to live, if China wants to survive, it has to do a salam or a ashtang pranam to United States of America. There is no other way. Let everybody get this message loud and clear, including Pakistanis and some people in Middle East and some people in North Korea who believe China is an economic superpower. I have been always maintaining China is no economic superpower. China is the biggest, highest leverage economy in the whole world. So if you take out American markets out of it, if you take out European markets out of it, and if you possibly take Indian market out of it, China is finished. So that is where the things start shaping up. Now, if you look at the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, what Chinese have been doing, they have been supplying all the military consumables to Russians. They've been trying to supply all the raw material to Russian industries to keep them up and running. So China, what she said rightly, you said, they've been supplying anything and everything. Jo manga wo diya. Especially the military consumables, wherein they were supplying cheap. So a reliable supply chain, which was disrupted for Russia, came from China. And that is why we have seen China and Russia coming closer, which was a reality of life, which eventually was a threat to European Union, to the USA, and even to my country, India, where there is a China and Russia coming together. We can trust Russians, but we can never ever trust Chinese. I think nobody on this planet Earth can trust Chinese after the Wuhan virus. So now the Secretary of State going there, something happened, something was exchanged. Possibly, we all know that the virus started from Wuhan. It was a biological weapon of Chinese, because when the Chinese economy was stopping, if you look at 2019, so what did they do? They wanted to unleash something which will stop the global economy. So what is the only way for your country not to default? भाई हिंदी में there's a saying, हम तो ले मरेंगे तुम्हें भी साथ ले डूबेंगे सनम. So if I'm going to perish, I'll get the whole. If my economy is stopping, if my economy is dying, I'll make the whole world stop. That is the only way I will get time. So by unleashing this bioweapon, which is made in a Chinese biolab. Now let's not get into who funded the research and all. That's not a subject today. A lot of researchers in the world are funded for a lot of things, but that does not make you make it into a bioweapon. That does not mean that you unleash a bioweapon. That does not give you the liberty and license to unleash the bioweapon and kill millions of people. And let's not forget, who are the people who were maximum killed were Americans. Maximum American lives were lost. I think more than 1 million Americans died. So
Yes,
somewhere
yes.
down the line, there was an accountability who killed 1 million Americans. Because if you talk of American deaths, for 5,000 deaths, so I'm not counting dead, please don't get me wrong. For 5,000 deaths, you went to Tora Bora, you earned $1 trillion and you dismantled Afghanistan and Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden very well. I'm complete in support of that. But the country which killed more than 1 million Americans, we lost more than 1 million Americans' lives, we lost 15 trillion of the global GDP, the country was still up and running. And that country somehow needed American market, needed American support to live and survive. So what do? Americans realize the tipping point. Look, this is the tipping point. Now the cracks will start opening up in public. Cracks are there, fissures are there. Chinese will never survive this, but still, how to prevent Chinese from, these fissures and, cracks to come up in public. So was it Anthony Blinken's visit? Say, look, buddy, we know what you have done. We know what you have done in Wuhan virus. And by the way, American government had also ordered an intelligence probe that American intelligence was supposed to probe and give a report. To best of my knowledge, that report never came. Or even if it came, it was never made public. Now, when the report was not made public, when the report came, I'm very sure that the American authorities are competent enough to find where did the virus come from. So virus is a good leverage, is a good geopolitical leverage which Americans can use against China. Because if Americans declare, okay, Chinese unleash the virus, it's gone. There's no leverage. But in geopolitics, it's a game of leverage. What I've been always maintaining, it's a game of leverage. The more leverages you have, the more deals you can cut, the more bargains you can make. And that is what possibly Americans are doing. Look, we want a victory in Ukraine conflict. Unfortunately, our clown is not delivering the goods. And when he was last time in Europe, all the Europeans told him one thing. Bhaiya, this is the last time we are giving any war, machinery, everything. Beyond that, we have nothing more to give. Even Germany has kind of clearly said they cannot replace the tanks which were destroyed by Russians. So where is the men? Where is the machinery? Where is the money? How is our good friend Zelensky going to fight? There's no way he's going to fight. So an external geopolitical intervention is required. I cannot help you, but can I weaken your enemy? Yes, I can weaken your enemy. If I can weaken your enemy, that will be a help to you. Sri sir brought a very important point. I've been always talking about it. If you look at how many able-bodied youth from 18 to 25 are available in Ukraine today to fight, when you deep dive into numbers, you'll be amazed to know there are hardly any men left. And let's not forget, with 1.1 million Russian troops and around 2.2 million in reserve, that makes it around 3 million, broadly speaking. So how can 3 million troops be fought by Ukrainians? Because Americans, neither Europeans, nobody is going to put boots on the ground. That is for sure. So now this Wagner group thing was orchestrated, and the Wagner group turned around and said, look, because logic is very simple. If you talk about the Wagner group, 50,000 men, how can they fight against 3 million, 1.1 million full-time Russian army and 2 million reserves? And with the Russian firepower, we can't discount Russia is a military superpower. Nobody can deny that. So if you look at mercenaries, and which are prisoners from Russian jails and some rebels here and there, they fight for money. So if you go and attack Russians, you will end up in grave. When you end up in grave, you don't get money in grave. So to get money, you have to live. To live, you have to make money. So if you end up in grave, so Wagner group, when the whole thing happened, and I have seen one more interesting turn of events. Immediately when the so-called Wagner mutiny happened, the people said, oh, these are freedom fighters, the Western media. And she said within 24 hours, they became terrorists. So when they did a U-turn, so all the guys became terrorists. So 24 hours before they were freedom fighters, after 24 hours, they became terrorists. That is the most interesting part I found in the Wagner mutiny, because how freedom fighters can become terrorists and how terrorists and prisoners and mercenaries can become freedom fighters. It is all what people want to build a narrative on. I was seeing Twitter was going crazy, Elon Musk, and all the people who were on the Twitter, they were debating how this Wagner group is going to bring down Putin and all. But even, and let's not forget, Americans admitted there was a 6.2 billion accounting error where the money went to Ukraine. Now, if $6.2 billion went to Ukraine, which can be accounting error, so did the Ukrainians said, yes, we got the money. Is Ukraine going to return the money? Is going to money come back? So if some money comes into my account, it has to be returned to the bank, right? There can be a mistake. Somebody can credit, let's say, 10 lakh rupees to my account, but what will bank say? Mr. Peer, kindly return the money, or bank can pull back that money. I have to return the money because money doesn't belong to me. The classical point here is if $6.2 billion goes to Ukraine, immediately within 48 hours there's a mutiny. 50,000 people start marching to Moscow, and immediately they turn a U-turn. Belarus president kind of brokered a deal. Now the Wagner group head is in Belarus. We all know that. But where did the $6.2 billion go? By Chumantur ho gaya, where it will disappear in the thin air. So then Americans thought, okay, money is not going to work. Let's try to hold the Chinese, I don't want to use the word, by the balls, and squeeze them where it hurts the most. So they exactly said, look guys, if you want to survive, if you want to be in business, if you don't want to go bankrupt, and Mr. Xi Jinping, if you don't want to lose your long face, it will become short. So what you have to do, you have to exactly tell you what I tell you to do. So what is you have to do? You have to call off all your exports to Russians. That will weaken Russian supply chains. That will weaken the ruble. That will dampen the Russians, fighting capabilities. That will impact oil, military, oil and army. They are the two biggest industries of Russia. That will impact both. So if I can play with the supply chains here, that will weaken the Russia. Weakening of the Russia will be some kind of a win or a salvage for Americans in Ukraine, because they know the clown is not delivering. He has got all the support in the world. They realize they put their money on the wrong horse, and that horse might even disappear in some due course of time. That might also happen. I'm predicting that the horse will disappear somewhere, because this man has been not able to deliver goods after the global support. And if you look at the American, I will say American, if you look at the Russian versus Ukrainian casualties, it's 1:9. For every one Russian soldier killed, you have 9 Ukrainian soldiers killed. Now, how will this country ever win a war? So there is no way Americans can win a, Ukrainians can win a war, and America can have a victory. So the best way is to scuttle the supply chains of Russia and to use China for that. But eventually, Sri sir, one day it will somewhere also come down to India, because they know that Russians will look to India, Russians will look to Africa, Russians will look to other parts of the world. So how will India respond? But what is most agonizing part is you have us, China not to export things to Russia, fair enough. But has China stopped buying Russian oil? Because logically, next step should be you should ask China not to buy Russian oil. Because if China doesn't buy the Russian oil, the crude prices in Middle East and all will go up. If the crude prices in Middle East and all go up,
because there will be so much supply, right?
No, if China does not supply the oil, they have to go to KSA, right? If you see,
right.
They have to go. So what are the Arabs looking? Arabs want to have more demand, and China is the biggest importer of oil. So they will limit the supplies more. The prices will go up. We know MBS on record is saying that around 2 years back he wanted to sell a barrel for $150 to $200 a barrel. But can the world economy sustain that? Can the American economy sustain that? Can the Chinese economy sustain that? So your problem is if you want to bring down China here, you're another arch rival, and the person who we're not going very well with, that is KSA, that is MBS will have a gala time. The whole Middle East will have a gala time. And MBS right now needs money. He wants his oil to sell at the highest price. So if the oil sells at the highest price, so all the oil producing nations, including Venezuela, which is sanctions state, where you have said that you will be releasing some sanctions, but it will be 1.5 years, still the Venezuelan oil hits the world market. And all these Nigerias of the world and all these oil producing nations of the world will be strengthened. So in a way, you will strengthen OIC. Now the challenge is bringing down Russia will strengthen OIC. So is that kind of a risk? Is that kind of a gamble what Americans are willing to take? Is it very important for Joe Biden politically to have a victory? Is Obama's clan trying to do something? That is over to you, Sri sir.
Thank you so much. In fact, you segued me back to the next point. So, what is happening in the United States politics? Sumitji, you've done an excellent coverage. One thing that I did not expect from you, but which makes sense, is that KSA and UAE will be happy at the turn of events should China stop buying oil from Russia. I think that will not happen, Sumitji, just because they have pipelines, oil pipelines from Russia, and that is the cheapest way to transport crude. Cheapest way. And they may not want to turn that off, because China also needs some leverage, right? I mean, if tomorrow US again says we will not buy from you, because it depends upon what kind of political opposition that Biden is going to face back home. So let me just update our viewers with what is happening in the United States politics. You know, Obama went into hibernation 7 years ago when he finished his term. Then suddenly he's up. Then suddenly, he's starting to take pot shots at India, of all places. I mean, in that interview, many of us probably concentrated on his comments about India, but many of us probably didn't see how he ran down Biden. Sumiji here literally said Biden is inefficient, incapable, blah, blah, blah. So why is a previous president, whose trusted vice president for 8 years was Joe Biden, suddenly saying now Biden is, not doing a good job? So the story is, this is again a little bit of connecting the dots for me. So viewers, I just want to tell you a couple of things. In the United States, anytime elections come along and there is a war, then the population tends to vote for the sitting president. Example is, the last one is 2004, when George Bush Jr., who was widely called as ineffective, still got a mandate for 4 more years. Same way, Biden is hoping to prolong this war up until maybe June, July of next year, so that the people can say, okay, we'll give Biden one more chance. So that is what the Biden camp is hoping to do. My calculations, okay? Now, the other side is, there is widespread story that Biden is losing control of his senses. And you see this thing, obviously, in many of the shows. He's slipping and falling. He's not able to, utter proper sentences. He mistakes Iran with Iraq and so on and so forth. Lots of gaffes. So what people are saying is there's going to be a quiet change in the Oval Office. The problem there is, Oval Office, they want Biden out, but they don't want Kamala Harris in. Okay, so this is where the problem. They don't want Kamala Harris in. Somehow Kamala Harris was extremely lucky to get the vice presidential nomination, because if you look at how they have been, running her roughshod, that she's not brainy. She's not as dumb as they made her out to be. Okay, she's pretty smart. It takes a lot to become the Attorney General of California, and then on to become a senator from California, and now she's the vice president. So if you have these equations, I expect something to happen. 2 candidates I'm seeing that might emerge. Gavin Newsom, the current governor of California. If the progressives, that is the Bernie Sanders, Obama, Ilhan Omar, Rep. Rashida, Pramila Jayapal, all these people prevail, then it is going to be Gavin Newsom who will suddenly become a presidential candidate. Who knows? He might even succeed Biden and then be the young, youthful, he's only in his 50s, candidate for 2024 for the Democrats. If that happens, you can say that I can say that I am doomed, because I'm not along. I'm a misfit in California, because California has become so woke now. It is terrible. Anyway, that's one possibility. The second possibility is that Biden somehow manages to extend his term. He continues to, blunder along, if you will. And let us say Russia starts feeling the pinch. What is Russia going to do? Russia will try to see if it can make up for what it is losing from China, from somebody else. Who is that somebody else who can supply to Russia? India, possibly. If India decides to start giving things, then will US come and tell India, you cannot do this thing? And how will India respond? So there are some new things coming up. I see some dark clouds emerging for India. That's how I see it. So I'm going to give you the question. Play this out next 6 months, 8 months. I've told you the scenarios. Biden goes, Newsom comes in, suddenly a new president and youthful guy, suddenly everything changes. 2024 they win because he is going to be pitted up against whoever the Republicans will throw, and he might even win. Now, my conjecture is, after I wrote my book, Who Painted My State Purple, that on the ground the Republicans don't have what it takes to win a presidential election. This is my take. It doesn't matter how popular their candidate is. Numbers are not there. The numbers are not there. That's my take. Over to you. What do you think is going to mean for India?
So there are two things which I've been also observing. The first thing is that Hillary Clinton has come up in public and said age of Joe Biden is a concern. Suddenly, Hillary Clinton is talking about the age of Joe Biden. I mean, where did this all come from? Then we know that recently Obama had a dinner or a lunch with Joe Biden. What was this dinner or lunch about suddenly? What were they discussing? We don't know. Point number 3, Obama has been taking pot shots and trying to come into the picture. Point number 4, we know that there is a talk that Obama will try to get his wife, Michelle Obama, placed for the job. And nobody seems to like Kamala Harris. And recently there was one statement of Joe Biden which I was completely amused by, where he said, I told him, we should not talk to Xi Jinping. I had 68 meetings, 68 hours, 68 times I was spoken to him. I mean, that was completely, he looked, sorry to say that, he looked delusioned, when he was saying that. He looked something was really wrong. It's not a mistake. It was a complete fiasco of a statement. 68 meetings, 68 hours, 68 times. I mean, it looked like that he was not even in control of his conversation. So things are like that. And unfortunately, the image of Kamala Harris, which is painted, is that, it's suit pants. That's the American slang they say. So there, what does the camp bring? What is happening within? What is happening within the, camp, their camp? We don't know. Things are not, as clean as we wish to be. And we know, the full name of Barack Obama is Barack Hussein Obama. We have discussed about his affinity to the Islam and the Muslim world and all. Now, emergence of India is at a stage wherein if you can stop India now, you can stop India. But if India crosses 5 trillion, there will be no stopping back. And when you cross 10 trillion, then it is bound. It's a matter of time. It will be the second or the first largest economy in the whole world. That is going to happen. So a lot of forces are trying to stop India and trying to stop any cost. And here, geopolitically, the things are being turned, the things are being used in a way that, how do we stop Modi? And 2024 is not 24. And if you see the buzz in the India, I think I'll update you on 2-3 things which have happened. There have been hectic meetings happening in the BJP top bars, that is Mr. Santosh, Mr. Nadda, Mr. Amit Shah, and Modiji. I mean, there have been a lot of meetings happening. For the first time, I have seen Modiji intervening into the, parties, cadres, and the ministerial reshuffle, which is imminent now. There's one more meeting, which is, I think, happening tomorrow, that is 3rd July. And a big shake-up within the for the cabinet and for the party is that is what the media buzzes is planned out. Now, with all these things shaping up and happening, so how is, and it all happened when Modiji was back from United States of America. There was a school of thought when Modiji will be back, depending on how the things happen there. Now, one fright which we, challenge which we saw was rather that this Islam Khatre mein, Muslim genocide, that might be brought up by Joe Biden or the human rights, the usual things, the usual tricks of the, tricks of the bag. They may be brought in. But surprisingly, I have seen President Biden and, in fact, defending Prime Minister Modi on all these things when that Pakistani origin journalist tried to ask the question and tried to bring in this thing. On the contrary, we have seen Obama going exactly on the same day and giving this interview and talking of an imminent Muslim genocide. And remember Obama, when he was, even as a president, he was invited here. He went to address the kids here. And even at that time, he bought in this thing wherein our foreign secretary had to resign. So even, from those days to that day, around 8 years have passed. I don't think there's a lot of change in the mentality of Obama. And Obama knows it is now or never for his wife, Michelle, to make it. I mean, after 4 years, who knows? There's a lot of water which would have been flown under the bridge. So Obama knows where his cards are. So Obama knows it's now or never. I see Obama like our Nitish Babu. Like our Nitish Kumar says, I can become prime minister now or never. Obama also knows my wife now or never. So there's a synergy between the two. Now, if you look at on the contrary, Republicans, what you rightly said, who is the most emerging candidate? Donald Trump, but he has his own set of problems. There are a lot of things which is carrying a baggage of Vivek Ramaswamy and Harleen,
Ron DeSantis, yeah.
Ron DeSantis and all. I don't see a very popular candidate. I don't see a powerful candidate. I don't know even is Ted Cruz running this time or not. I don't think he's running as far as I know. So who is the Republican alternate? Are Republicans going to bring the alternate? What is the Republican strategy? What is the Republicans going to do? While as the Obama-Clinton cabal is very active. They are become hyperactive in last around 30 days before Prime Minister Modi's visit and after Prime Minister Modi's visit. Now this Chinese thing has happened, rations are changing, Wagner mutiny. So they will try to put India in a very tight spot. Look, India, we are opening the doors of technology for you. We are opening our universities for you. We are opening everything. We have done everything. But you have to bring down your relations with Russia. Now, look at the Indian point of view. We have a current account surplus for the first time or a minimal deficit is because of the Russian oil. Because we have saved a lot of dollars, what I have been kind of telling. If we import all the oil from Russia, we save $54 billion a year. But we're doing around 30% of that. And we're getting a lot of coal from them. We're getting a lot of things which are coming from Russia. Now, looking at this thing, and if we look at our Air Force, our 50 to 60% dependence is on Russian arsenal. We can't get away with that. Army, we are not so much dependent on Russia. On Navy, we are not so much of dependent on Russia. We still need our pending S-400 batteries. Those are work in progress. So our relations with Russia will determine our competitive edge in defending our interests vis-a-vis China. Right? Because if we bring down our relations with India, our competitive edge and our defense needs vis-a-vis country will have to be kind of compromised a bit. That will not leave us the advantage what we have with China today. And on the contrary, if you look at China, China is looking at a win also. It's a similar situation like US. She is looking for one win with India. He tried Tawang, he tried Galwan, he might try something else. He is looking that win. Even in Tawang, what could he have done? He could have taken 2, 3, 4 posts at maximum. But those 2, 3, 4 posts could have been a big political win for Xi and a big political debacle for Modi. And the whole of the Western media would have jumped. Look how Modi has lost his territory. Why Modi? And our opposition here would have jumped. Why Modi should not be thrown out? Because, he has lost to China. I mean, that was the story which was being spun. It is getting a bit complex. I mean, and it's moving so fast. Over to you.
So one thing I left out is that during this Blinken met Xi Jinping also. This is unusual. Protocol says that he will find and meet his counterpart in China. He did meet that person. Afterwards, he did meet with Xi Jinping. Now, it is believed that the United States has signed a letter. See, this has not come out, okay? This is believed that United States has signed a letter in which it has said that it will not interfere should China attack one of its neighbors. Now, I'm not sure if there's an exception to Taiwan and India. Understand, viewers, you have to look at this carefully. It's not as easy as, Sri and Sumit are making things up. This letter has been, in fact, tweeted out also by some people that there is a non-interference clause that has been signed to by Secretary Blinken. Because US is put, $500 billion now, close to the Western US put $500 billion in Ukraine, and you said $6.2 billion. Many people are again connecting the dots and saying that money, that 6.8 billion, was paid to the Wagner army.
Correct.
Okay, so now what happened probably is 100 miles before he reached Moscow, there must have been a deal saying that we will match it, no problem. So now what happens is, this is a one-way ticket money, right? It's not going to come back. So he has 0.8 from US, probably 7 billion from Russia, right? So this is, and we don't even know if he's still alive or not. They said that he has gone to Belarus. We don't know if he's in Belarus or if somewhere else. People are saying that he may have just gone underground because his troops are still saying, what happens to us? So that is one other challenge there. Now, you mentioned that Clinton is also becoming very active. That's very true. So the other interesting problem, who is taking the battle to the Biden camp about the corruption? It started at 1 million, 1 million, then it went to 5 million, 5 million. Yesterday, one of the congressmen said that Biden's may have received up to $40 million. Viewers, if you had watched my conversation with Sasha Gong about 18 months ago, the number mentioned just from China was 32 million.
Correct. Absolutely.
I mean, we told you this. Why is the Republican Party slow? Maybe they were gathering evidence. I don't know. Interesting thing is, the evidence was gathered and a book was written called Red Handed, from where we were quoting our data. Our data was based on the book from Red Handed, and it looked very thorough because they had said that we have emails, we have all these things, and the story is very compelling. So, Republicans are going after Biden. Biden's own party mates, there are two groups, Obama group and Clinton group. Both of them also are going after Biden. By the way, Nancy Pelosi is related to Gavin Newsom. So now you understand where Newsom's clout comes from. Even though she may not be the leader of the Democrats in the Congress today, she was up until a few months ago. So there is a lot of churn going on within the US. And now you are talking about what is going to happen in Ukraine. It's going to be difficult times. But one thing that India needs to be wary of is, if that letter did get signed, and if China tries to attack, they might do it in the next few months, because that would make Modi appear weaker, and that could effectively sway the people's mind, say, okay, Modi could not defend India. That could happen. That's a real danger. I don't know what Dr. Jaishankar is going to do after all these revelations. Things are moving at frenetic pace right now, guys. Frenetic pace. And we will keep you updated. We have to do a lot of research to give you all this data. So please always like our videos. I'm still seeing only 1 in 2 of you have liked this program. We are having currently 1,500 people watching this program. I would expect 1,500 likes for this by now. I'm only seeing 500. May I request you to please like this video? And Sumitji, over to you. And then after that, we'll take some questions. Go ahead.
So the point here is, which is very interesting, is that, that is where the classical paradigm is. US, America may say, I will give you the technology, I will give you the weapons, I will give you Chinooks and Apache. But you can also go and sign this letter with China, which is a possibility. Now, if you sign this letter with China, then you can tomorrow say, sorry, what happened in the Kargil tower, we can't give you the GPRS access, we can't give you this, we can't give you that, because we have a letter signed with this. This supply to you, or this transfer of technology to you, might be seen as interference and might violate our fundamentals, or our fundamentals about diplomacy or the agreements we have signed. So these backdoor agreements is the biggest problem and the challenge what India faces when it comes to dealing with Americans, because we don't know what America will sign and when they will sign and what this will happen. If you talk of the $6.2 billion thing of the Wagner group, it was very evident this Wagner chief, who was used to sell hot dogs on Russian streets, how did he become the leader of such a big mercenary force? Who gave him the prisoners? Who gave him the arsenal? He's a guy made by Putin, and will last till the time Putin wants him. Now, imagining him to chop off his head, and and he can't enjoy the money, obviously. Even if you get 6.2 billion, what do you do with the money? So he must have spoken to Putin, cut a deal, or told him CIA is offering me the money. Putin told him, okay, take the money. Now, you see here, CIA and Americans are getting desperate. Here, China is getting desperate. They want a win. You rightly pointed out one. China, the window is shortening. Now we are in June. Now, if you look beyond October, July, August, September, 3 months. October, November, December, nobody can fight at those heights. It will go to -30, -40, maybe -48. You cannot fight there. So you have 3 months. And our elections are going to be in March, possibly April. That is one. So to get a victory is 3 months. And exactly when our elections are happening, 2 months after that, 1 month here and there, Americans' election will happen. Joe Biden wants the war to prolong. She wants a victory. Americans want a victory. So somebody has to lose. Who is that somebody who is going to lose? Because everybody wants to see a victory here. Now, if you talk of the geopolitics, sir, it is changing more rapidly than we can analyze. And even when we are doing this program, something might have shaken on the ground, which we might know after when we go off this, broadcast, and we might find something has shaken off the ground. So if things are moving at such a pace, now for India to balance out three people, India is a big four country, or four countries. You know, Americans, you have Russians, you have Chinese, and you have Indians. So here, India, I mean, if I take for the sake of argument, India to balance between the three, because your friends and rivals are between the three. You have to always balance between the three. Your biggest trading partner and your biggest enemy is within the three, right? This is it's a very difficult paradigm to think. Now, imagine the kind of paradigms what Mr. Prime Minister Modi and Dr. Jaishankar will be, and Rajnath Ji will have to deal with every day. So your friend is America, your biggest trading partner is America, but America goes and does a deal with China and says, and your biggest adversary is again a B4 country. Now they will tell you, okay, go out and back off and don't trust Russians because we are with you. But I will sign a letter with China to balance out that if China attacks you, will not intervene. So that means, so will our essential supplies be impacted? Will the transfer of technology happen at the same time? Will the supplies come? Will the resources come? I want to just make one point. We have a 𝙒𝙖𝙩𝙦 fleet, and the MRO is in India for a lot of things now with the Russian equipment. Now, where does the relation matter? When Putin came to Hyderabad house, I think it was before COVID or sometime around the COVID, he came for 5 hours. He sat and he signed all the documents. For the next 10 years, Russians have assured us AMC, spares, support, all the Russian equipment and Russian technology we need. Now, are Americans, through this channel I want to ask, are Americans willing to do that? Now, if you can sign a letter with, Chinese, which we don't know we have, possibly you have, would you come and sign us a letter like Russians that we will be able to give you all supplies, spares, transfer of technology, and everything of American origin to India, and that in no way, because of any geopolitical situations, this will not be impacted or stopped. That is the assurance we want. So if we move away from Russians, we will be creating a vacuum in our defense, in our survivability of the country. So American business, American trade is good. We need it, but we can survive without it. But if we become militarily weak, if the supplies are not happening, if the things are not happening, I'll give you examples. So we have this lot of 𝙒𝙗𝙗𝘗. Now, in the time of, in the UPA era, Manmohan Singh Ji's era, the availability of the fleet was 55%. That means how much your spare support and MRO facility, that determines the availability of the fleet. So if I can break it for the viewers, let's say we have 1,000 𝙒𝙗𝙗𝘗, example. Only 550 could fly because at any given point of time, that is the availability of the spare. Because you need a calendar age of the spares and you have a run life of the spares. Now, under Modiji, the availability of the fleet is 90 to 95%. People say it's around 95%. So now if you have 1,000 𝙒𝙗𝙗𝘗, 950 of them can be in the air any given point of time. That is how critical are the spares, how critical is the AMCs, how critical is the technology transfer, and how critical is the MRO facilities. So getting an Apache or Chinook is good, but having a reliable supply lines coming in and to do it, that's where the Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India becomes very important. That is why Tejas is important. That is why things are changing at a much dynamic pace. So very soon, I cannot imagine what kind of a night must Dr. Jaishankar go through, because I don't know, does he get 1 hour of sleep or not? I don't know what kind of a paradigms are going into Modiji's mind and Rajnath Ji, who has to manage the defense. So things are changing at a very, at a lightning speed, I would say. And what is the next surprise which is going to hit us? That is what we have to contemplate. And in this thing, one thing could be very easily pushed in the envelope. Look, Modi is not competent. Modi needs to be replaced. BJP needs to be replaced. BJP is sleeping, sleeping on the wheel and all that. But the people who will do that, they will never tell you what is the MOU they have done with the People's Republic of China and with the Chinese Communist Party. They will never talk about the MOU they have done. They will never make that MOU public what they have done. As per my sources, what I understand, that MOU was to do a free trade agreement. If that free trade agreement would have been done, so we would be depending even for our toilet paper, to earbuds, to everything on China. Even the wheat and milk might have come from China. I'm just talking, don't take it literally. But India would have become another bigger Pakistan today. The economy would have reached that stage. And Xi Jinping would be calling the shots, not Nirmala Sitharaman ji. So that is what would have happened. So we even as citizens are at a cusp of time where we have to look at geopolitical things only, not at national issues, but international issues. What are the cabals doing? Where are the things changing? Where the things are moving at a lightning speed, and how we are going to secure our national interest, and who is the best man to secure our national interest. Who are the people who have done agreements with the Communist Party of China? What is their next step going to be? What are they going to bring up to the people? What are the things that are going to happen? So we have to really watch out, because honestly, after 5 trillion, the road to 10 trillion is a little bit steep. It's a little bit difficult. But after 5 to 10 trillion, you will reach it. Once you cross 10 trillion, there is no looking back. It's no looking back. We are also at the time and cusp that we will decide and determine the future of our future generations to come. We will determine what kind of a life they want. There was a video of Modiji said, like, if you want to vote for Samajwadi, you're voting for Mulayam Singh's son. If you want to vote for National Conference, you're voting for Farrukh's son. If you want to vote for DMK, you're voting for Stalin Bhaiya. So likewise, if you're voting for Mamta Didi, you're voting for her nephew, for her dynasty to continue. Now, the call we have to take is, are we going to vote for these kids, politicians' sons and future generations, or are we going to vote for our Banja, our Batija, my son and my pota? Whom do we prefer? Their sons, their potas, my son, your son, his grandchildren, his granddaughter, his grandson? What are we going to? It is between us and them now. And what Sri Sir and me are trying to do, we're trying to bring you these geopolitical paradigms, which a lot of you don't watch, and which unfortunately a lot of our media does not cover. So if you watch channels like PGurus and all, you will come to know the crux of things. We don't talk about Mullah ki dod masjid tak. We don't talk about one subject only. We bring so many varied subjects, and we give you the reasons, we give you the logics, we give you the analysis based on fact and sequence of events happening. And don't forget, Sri Sir has an excellent pulse what is happening in US at almost a real-time basis. So he gives a very close top and watch on what is happening at the US economy, how the things are shaping, what are the challenges. It might not be very good to bring out challenges, but we, as me and Sri Sir, we try to always bring up the challenges. We want to talk about the challenges, because nothing is without challenges. The challenges might have a degree of 5 or might have a degree of 10. That is what we live in. But let's talk about challenges. Let's not be fanatically we love with our crazy neighbors on the right and left, because who are useless, especially the Pakistanis are useless and good for nothing. I mean, talking about Pakistanis is wasting your time and your time, because what will you, doobte ko kya dooboge? Nanga to already nanga. What will you do? Nanga nahayega kya, nichodega kya? So this is what the Pakistan is. That's why I stopped going to all the Pakistan YouTube channels, and I would urge you to do the same, because we are, they are nobody to talk to us. They are Bikharis of first order. Why do we get about talking about Bikharis, and what can Bikharis do analysis of us? I mean, it is about the big four, my friends, my brothers and sisters. Is about big four now. India, America, China and Russia. This is where geopolitics is. Now, even the European Union is not there. Even the Africans are not there when it comes. These 4 countries are, you might say, what is great about these 4 countries? 4 countries to hai. They are more than 45% population of the world. See the amount of global GDP they are controlling. So this is not literally 4 countries. This is where the cream is. And we have entered the club of big boys. So we as Indians, you, my brothers and sisters, wherever you in the world are, you have to be aware of geopolitics. You have to know at a real time what are the geopolitics things and what will be the after effects. And that is what we try to do at PGurus, to bring out those effects, to bring out those challenges. And what me and Sri Sir love is to talk about the challenges, not only the good things. We talk about the good things, we talk about the options, but everything comes with a challenge. We bring out those challenges so that you are aware. When you're going to cast your vote, when you're going to make your opinions, you know what we are looking at, what is staring at us. Sri Sir.
Thank you so much, Sumit. Let's take a few questions now. And viewers, please, this is just the beginning of a long sequence of events that are going to take place. Sumit will be us every step of the way. You know that for English, he comes twice, on Thursdays and Saturdays. This Thursday, he had some other business, so he couldn't make it. So we apologize for that. But Thursdays and Saturdays, 8 p.m. English from Sumit Pierji and I, where we are going to look at primarily geopolitics, because this is the most important subject. By the way, he said Bikhari or beggars, not Biharis. No offense meant to our brothers and sisters from Bihar. Bikhari. So this is beggars. Yeah, beggars. So basically, we are trying to say that Pakistan has become so poor that because they're always in a begging bowl. Their prime minister is always on a begging bowl, asking you give me some money, give me some money. That's what he meant. So I just wanted to clarify that. Let's take some questions, please. Ujjwalji, thank you so much. ME, sir, what is the message sent to the West when Modi and Putin spoke over the phone?
Sir, namaskar, sir. Well, when people can do their agreements, they can sign their letters. We also have our options open. And I have been always maintaining that Dr. Jaishankar is a very competent diplomat and Modiji is always on the wheel. So the people will not want him to be like that. And Rajaji is doing what he has to do, Mr. Amit Shah is doing, and all of the people are doing what they're supposed to do. But the challenge is that the things are changing so fast. And what was the news here? They talked about the Wagner mutiny. I don't think Modiji has anything to do with Wagner mutiny. Why should Modiji intervene in your internal affairs? Wagner is your baby. You handle it. Modiji must have, if we know it, I'm very sure the ME and Modiji would know about it. They would have talked about a lot of things about these geopolitical developments. But the news which is given out is Wagner mutiny. Come on, it's not about Wagner mutiny by any chance. That is what my assessment is. Sri sir.
Yeah, this is the bigger picture thing that they are discussing. I don't think it has anything to do with one small incident, which now we are doubting who paid the money also, right? So that's a small event. It's a small ripple. There's a big ocean out there. Next question, please. Krishna Kishore wants to know, USSR fight with Afghan, USA with Afghan was more than 3 years. Why did the miscalculation happen with Ukraine despite having this history? Is it information warfare?
Kishorji, namaskar. Sir, when you talk about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, it is not Ukraine, it is NATO, it is America, it's whole of European Union. So you are fighting 4 people, Ukrainians, you're fighting Americans, you're fighting European Union, and you're fighting the arsenal and the support of NATO. So it was not going to be an easy thing. And I think it's only a country like Russia, because remember, Russia is a military superpower. It may not be economic superpower. Imagine if this hell would have broken loose on China. China would have given up by that time. China would have gone nuclear or done some crazy things. You have to look at it the other way around. How these 4 put together could not bring down the Putin. Look at it from a different perspective. Don't look at the time. Still, they could not bring down the Putin. Still, Putin controls 25% of the area and 41% of the natural resources of Ukraine. That is also a reality of life.
Next question, please. Thank you, Amit. Great analysis, Sumit sir. Pranam sir. One question: in case China limits oil purchase from Russia, why can't Russia turn their focus to India to sell?
Sir, in geopolitics, we talk of something called as political redundance, geographical redundance, and supply redundance. Why has India gone to Venezuela? Why has India gone to Argentina? Why is India going to, what is that Russian says? Sakhalin? And where are we finding our own oil? Because when you talk of redundance, you cannot put all your eggs on one basket. It is not advisable. So we make money, we save money from buying from Russians, and they take money in rupees. But still, if you talk from a geopolitical perspective, it is always good to divide your risks. With trade, you create friends. With trade, you don't create more enemies. That is how I look at it.
Next question, please. JS wants to know, US and Russia economy are down, and now which country will benefit, India or China?
Sir, the logic is that, in my opinion, look, India is an internal consuming economy, and India is a self-reliant economy, and we have a lot of demographic dividends which are in our favor. I think when you look at the global things, if you look at the economic projections for next 10 years, if you look at what the IMF has to say, if you look at what the World Bank has to say, if you look at what all the financial institutions of the world have to say, if you look at the meter of recession probability, India's recession probability is 0, while as United States of America is at, I think, 65%, and highest is the UK at 74%. I rest my case. You must have got the answer, sir.
Next question, please. Thank you, Gauri Kulkarni. Why doesn't Modiji negotiate deals in exchange for Soros? USA controls Soros, and we give you deals. Deep state can definitely control Soros.
Gauriji, namaskar. Ma'am, Soros is only a pawn in the game. When you look at the deep state is an international organization which has all the powerful politicians, businessmen, defense, arms manufacturers, and the people who control banks of the world. You have Rothschilds, you have Rockefeller Group. You have so many of them. These people, there's also one thing which is talked about, the Super 300. There's also a concept of that. So these are the people who make the deep state. It is not the Soros who makes the deep state. Soros is a smaller part of the deep state. Soros is not the deep state. Soros is a person which is in public, which we know of. There are a lot of people which work in the backgrounds. And if you look at, I will leave you with one thought. who financed Napoleon? Who financed the world wars? Both sides. When you go deep into that, you will have the answer. So deep state is a much bigger concept. It's a much bigger cabal internationally, and they have no geographical boundaries. They can be anywhere in the world, and some of their members are even in India. So don't think that we are Indians. There's nobody who works for deep state here. There are people who work in deep state here. There are people.
Thank you, Amit Karnik. Sir, will not Democrats count on Biden backfire in 24? Will not COMTS comments on Biden backfire in 2024? You go ahead.
Sir, would you like to answer this?
Yes, I can answer this. I mean, it's a little confusing right now. What happened in the White House is in February, Biden changed his chief of staff. Chief of staff is sort of the most important person below the president. And in fact, he is perhaps the most important person in the White House because he controls access to the president. And that person got changed in February 2024. In April, Susan Rice, who was believed to be the messenger of Obama to try and enforce policy in a certain way in the White House, got shifted out. So somewhere you are seeing that Biden is asserting himself. Because after that only he said that he's going to run for 2024. So who is helping Biden now that we know he's not fully having control of all his mental faculties? It is believed that his wife, Jill Biden, is very, very active now. So these are all some of the things that are happening internally. Biden still believes that the Democratic candidate will win. And he just needs to make sure that he is that candidate. That's what the Biden camp thinks. By the way, Biden is pretty center. He's pretty, inclusive in terms of he's not in the camp of the progressives like in the moderate. So he's more like a moderate Democrat. So he is kind of closer to the center than to the left or to the right. So we have to wait and see what happens. Clearly, his health is failing, and how he is going to pick his successor, who that's going to be, and what's going to happen is all interesting questions. Again, we have not even talked about the interference of China and Russia in the United States elections that happened in 2016 and 2020. They're not going to be keeping quiet. On the one side, China will sign deals with the US. On the other side, they'll continue their espionage. Because I told you that Chinese police stations have been busted in New York, but they still haven't been even identified or traced in San Francisco. There are many cities where they are having this Chinese police sitting and controlling their residents who are working in the United States. So Correct. There are lots of challenges going on. So stay tuned. But most important thing is follow us, subscribe to us, like our videos. We will give you information and we double check before we put anything out there from our side. We'll tell you if there is a guest, we'll say this is our guest, this is our connection of the dots. So you know that there is a certain amount of guesswork involved. Thank you. Jahangir Gotla, thank you so much. I know it's off point, but can parts of West Bengal be brought under Orissa, Assam? Can India do something about threats posed by individuals? Can India change the equation by postponing elections?
Jahangir ji, namaskar. This is right now a very difficult question to answer because we don't know how the things are shaping up. In fact, a Rohingya problem, I would like to touch briefly on that. Rohingya problem is mushrooming in India. We have a lot of influx still from Bangladesh. Today, a lot of engineered influx is being orchestrated into West Bengal and Assam because somewhere down the line, you want to disrupt the 2024 elections. You want somewhere that different kind of people should come to the power, which is not BJP. And we have seen that opposition is trying to put a united front, which it will not be able to put. But when it comes to losing their existence, how low will they stoop? How low can they go? A lot of things are coming, a lot of reports are coming. You can see these reports of arson and violence which are happening. You can see even how the France is burning. I'm just moving a little bit out how the France is burning because of one law and order casualty. So this is what the things are happening. So we have to be very careful when we tread our path. We don't have to end up burning a lot of things. We don't have to have a lot of civil unrest. And we have to also manage geopolitics and the internal politics. And ultimately, for a country of the size and stature of India, So trust me, geopolitics is going to determine even your internal politics in future and in due course of time. A lot of things will be determined by geopolitics. What is possible? How much is your leverage? How much can you stretch? How much can you not?
Thank you so much. We have a few more questions. We'll quickly go through those. And Avadut wants to know, Sumit sir, tell us more about the inside story on how Russian and so-called Chinese coup nullified.
Sir, Avadut sir, the issue here is that, you see, Russians do not have territorial ambitions. Chinese have territorial ambitions. That is the fundamental difference. Russians do not have a mindset they are destined to rule the whole world, while the Chinese have. Russians have a religion, which is Christianity, though the churches might be different. Americans are also Christians, Russians are also Christians. The kind of church they follow might be different. But when it comes to Chinese, they don't have a religion. They don't believe in anything. So these people who don't believe in God, who have no fear of God, who are just one God they worship is Benjamin Franklin. That is a picture on the dollar. And when they say that Han Chinese are destined to rule the world, I think if the world has to watch something, I think it's stupid of Americans and Russians to fight. If they have to really watch something, these America, Russia, and India should go together and squeeze this China, because the eminent threat to the world peace and the eminent threat to peace and harmony across the globe is People's Republic of China, is not former USSR, is not Russia, is not even United States, and by no means India. It is PRC. We have to focus where the dragon and the Dracula live.
Next question, please. Modern day Coolie wants to know, what is the role of Wagner Group now?
Wagner Group will continue to serve Putin's interests. Wagner Group will continue to fight for Putin. The chief might be replaced or the same chief will continue. Take my word on one thing. You will see nothing will happen to this Wagner chief, but a lot of people within the Russian establishment under Putin, even his external affairs or some of his military guys and all, might get chopped or might disappear. That is a possibility I see. If nothing happens to Wagner chief, you can believe, you can take it in writing then, it was an orchestrated thing wherein Putin wanted to have all these rats being identified and get rid of them. So we'll see. And if something happens to the Wagner group, then it was him. If nothing happens to him, then he was only the director. He was only the actor. Director was Vladimir Putin. And the people who were watching the show were KGB.
Next one, please. Priyanka Porwal wants to know, Vande Mataram sir, can you manifest Obama's views on current state of France under riots?
Well, ma'am, Priyanka ji, namaskar. It is very simple. When it is Muslims doing arts and writing and violence, Obama doesn't talk. It's as simple as that. Why should Obama talk? Barack Hussain Obama, pura naam. Vijay Dinanath Chauhan. I'm borrowing a dialogue from Agnipath. No, Amitabh Bachchan used to say Vijay Dinanath Chauhan, Barack Hussain Obama. He will not utter anything about France. He will not say how the asylum seekers are coming and doing arson. Why are they burning buses? Why are they looting the showrooms? Why are they cutting the poles? How 200 French policemen have got injured? Well, that is... So you would talk of humanitarian values, you would talk about refugees, immigrants, shared values. But when push comes to shove, when things go out of the hand, when shit hits the fan, you say, oh, well, I don't know. I saw some pictures of Obama and his wife on some luxury yacht. So I don't know how far that is true.
They are in Athens now. Athens, Greece. Yeah.
Okay. So it's right. So when the France is burning, they're yachting. Easy.
Next question, please. Mahi wants to know, do you think India, given the growth factor, be it China, given the economic and social factors, would they be able to afford a war or even warlike situation?
I'll answer for that. You go, she said. So my problem, Mahiji, is that Xi Jinping wants a victory. Xi Jinping needs a war. Xi Jinping needs a limited victory so that he can say the Chinese Communist Party is relevant. The problem is that, in geopolitics, there's always a trade-off between short-term tactical and long-term strategic. What Chinese Communist Party has always done is short-term tactical, not long-term strategic. When you have a mounting debt, when the economy is not doing well, when your provinces are heavily indebted, when your real estate conking off. So you use communism to be in the power, but you use capitalism to make the money. But the outcome of capitalism is a democracy in due course of time. So how is China going to keep, acid and water together and make a cocktail and still sell and ask his people to drink that acid will clean your body and wet water will keep you hydrated. That is $1 million question. So he will do anything to maintain the communist hold on China and to be the president and to have CCP control the China. So he is the most desperate person. Look, this person wins the election without anybody casting one vote. All the others which we are talking about have to fight the election. If you've seen the Politburo meeting, I want to make one last point, sir. You've seen 200 people sitting like this for 7 days, 9 days. The whole world media covered it. Nobody told you, or you must have not, maybe some of you noticed, there was nobody who had a computer. There was nobody who had a mic. There was nobody who had no computer, no mic, no telephone. So what were these people doing? They were just smiling. You can imagine how does the communist China and CCP control power? Even that goddamn Politburo meeting or all these 200 meeting is the biggest facade and tamasha. It is better than what you show. It is more entertaining than what you show what they show in the Ludo or a Moulin Rouge. So you should watch the Chinese. The drama is much better. At least they are in Moulin Rouge and Ludo. They are artists. Here they are politicians trying to do a drama or a natak for 9 days, and that's China. Welcome.
Next question, please. Xi Jinping will not attack India because he needs access to Indian markets. What is your view?
Sir, Raghuramji, namaskar. Xi Jinping only needs his throne. He needs his communism to survive. He needs Chinese Communist Party to survive. He needs China to survive, just to buy time. If this man could unleash the bioweapon, COVID-19, which killed millions of people across the world, lent millions of jobs, and evaporated $15 trillion of the global GDP, why would he try Galwan? Why would he try Tawang? It's not he's not going to try. It's because he knows he cannot win a war with India. That is why he's not fighting a war with India, because he will lose the face and he will lose the economy. And the biggest fright he has, that Americans and the Europeans might change their tactics. They say, okay, you are very aggressive, you are attacking sanctions on you. He can never ever handle sanctions. Russians could handle sanctions. Xi Jinping will crumble within weeks. That is the biggest chinks in the armor. He will crumble under weeks. He cannot handle sanctions. His attacking of India can mean sanctions from the Europe, from the complete Western world, which he cannot risk. But limited conflict, I've been always saying limited conflict is what he would love to have. He wants a victory. He wants few posts. He wants few square meters, or few square kilometers of the land to brag about it. Look what China has done. And here, the cabal here will start, oh, Modi is lost. Modi is not good for the job. You have to remove these. These are traitors. They are sellouts. That is what is going to happen here. So, and the window is 3 months, sir. July, August, September. October ke baad kuch nahi hoga.
Thank you so much, Sumitji. Sorry, I kept interrupting, thinking you are done. So, viewers, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Follow me on Twitter, 𝙒𝙖𝙪1. Follow PGurus1, which is our channel Twitter account, and Sumit P191, which is Sumit PG's Twitter handle. We do put out news during the course of the day. 24/7, there is always something happening around the world. We do put that out. Please join us back in about 20 minutes, where we are going to talk local politics with 𝙒𝙪𝙤𝙪. Thank you once again, Sumitji. We will talk to you tomorrow on Hindi on various topics. So we will let you know, guys. Namaskar.
Namaskar, sir. Pranam, sadhuvad. Thank you very much.